must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.
Viewers, those listening to this tape or this video, I want to bring to your attention that the politics of proxy wars in Africa is becoming real, and it has become a reality. I want to bring to the attention of the African states that time and time again we have fallen victims of proxy wars. We fight wars that are not ours. We fall in conflicts that are not supposed to be, don't help Africa, and they don't help our countries at all. The proxy war that is in East and Central and the Horn of Africa has been ignited, supported, equipped by France. It has been very real that the French government, quietly through its company called Total Oil, has been searching for resources around the triangle of East and Central Africa and the Great Lakes region and the Horn of Africa. The Lapset was one of them, which could have been a landmark project for the people of France. They withdrew from it. The Tanga to Mwanza, they made it, they withdrew from it. The search for oil and resources through Total Oil has brought us the dangers of a proxy war in the region. It is therefore very prudent for people of the region to understand the dynamics that we are going through. For example, in Rwanda and the Burundi conflict, there is a proxy war. We are fighting a proxy country has brought us to a war between the two countries, between Uganda and Rwanda and Burundi. There is a proxy war in Congo who is sponsoring a resurgence of rebels that are fighting President Tshisekedi because he was not supported by countries that we know very well. This type of strategy has happened in North Africa, where Libya has been reduced to rebels, where each faction, even the government supported by United Nations, is being bombarded by a rebel called Khalifa Haftar, who is funded by countries that we know. The question of Somalia and the Kenyan maritime presents a challenge, a testy case for Africa and East Africa to stand firm and denounce the actions of countries that bring proxy wars and proxy politics in our region. It is therefore my humble submission that for this conflict, for this to end, we must do enough publicity, advocacy around the area to tell and explain to the international community why this problem is going to create an imbalance in the peace in the region, and the regional peace will be affected. It is therefore my humble submission that as a Ugandan whose troops, brothers and sisters, mothers and fathers of other many millions Ugandans who are in Somalia, condemn any action by the Somali government to try to resolve issues that should have been resolved amicably as Africans within the African confines. I submit therefore that some of us will go a mile further to do now, from now onwards, to expose, to show the challenges of these countries that make us fight a proxy war in Africa. Thank you very much for listening. God bless you.
Good morning, and thank you for joining us. A few minutes past 11 a.m. here in Nairobi. My name is Miriam Ogutu, and the show is Diplomatic Leaks. And on today's topic, we're going to look at the ongoing conflict in Mozambique and what effects it could have to its neighbors there. And is it a way that perhaps is being used, the war that we see, the conflict that we're seeing right now in Mozambique? Are there possibilities that it could be a proxy war targeting Mozambique's neighbors there? And so we have some information from SADC, what SADC has since done, what African Union has, the response from African Union, and also what really has been happening there in Mozambique. And is the Mozambique terrorist war a proxy war against the neighbors and the region? So that is our topic of discussion today. And joining me on the panel this morning is one of our regular panelists from Zimbabwe, Mr. Saxon. Saxon, good morning. Very well. As Saxon works on his signal there, we have Professor Onyari. Very well. So, all right, technology. They're joining and soon they will be with us. All right, Professor is there. Professor, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Miriam.
Good morning. Good morning.
All right, Saxon, very good morning to you and nice to talk to you this morning. So as we wait for the rest of the panelists to join, 3 years after fighting began in Mozambique's Cabo Delgado province, victims of the conflict that has killed more than 2,000 people are not close to finding justice, truth and reparation. Amnesty International report revealed in October, members of an armed group calling itself Al-Shabaab launched their first assault in Masimboa de Praia district in October 2017, attacking government institutions including police station and killing 2 police officers. Since then, the attacks, which have displaced more than 300,000 people, had targeted civilians, have grown increasingly violent. Now, last week, the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, Michelle Bachelet, called for urgent measures to protect civilians who are at the mercy of marauding armed groups in Mozambique's northern Cabo Delgado province. According to media reports, dozens of people were beheaded by the Islamist militants in northern Mozambique earlier this month. The escalating violence in Cabo Delgado province has sent thousands of people fleeing by land and by sea to escape what is thought to be an increasingly dangerous and chaotic situation. Thousands of others reportedly remain trapped in conflict areas, with many forced to hide in the bush for days. Certainly very sad events there, and what has been happening there in Mozambique, and that has continued this conflict there in Mozambique. So, Professor, from what we're reading here, we've seen a couple of times President Nyusi, that is his name, I believe, the president of Mozambique, coming out, and I think about 3 months ago, and he was asking for help from the European Union. But it's not like he was actually asking for help. It is something that he was saying as if it was just a by the way thing. It's not like he was seeking for serious help to help in curbing this rise of extremist group in his country. Why do you think President Filipe Nyusi has treated this matter not with the urgency that it requires? Professor.
Yeah, Miriam, I have closely looked at how this insurgent group started. The government did not treat it seriously, did not take it seriously. It took it as a joke. And as where we are, Miriam, the military of Mozambique is not capable to deal with this group, Miriam. And what you need to understand, Miriam, this Retho group is like Boko Haram, Miriam. One of the things, Miriam, they have got sophisticated weapons. And hear this, Miriam. You must be able to look at what are the really core issues. I was telling you in the morning about Ethiopia. And this is exactly what is happening in Mozambique. They are having gas. And the external, we are seeing the external forces coming in. Look the case like Democratic Republic of Congo.
Right. So we think probably 4 or 5 shots
Basically,
as well.
what is happening in Mozambique? People are fighting for the natural gas.
Yes. Yeah.
And now, when you are seeing that the United Nations trying to come in, the United Nations and Democratic Republic of Congo, as the war ended. So, Miriam, Africa, we are headed into big trouble. And I hope the meeting in SADC should come together and constitute a military team to deal with this group. Otherwise, it is becoming a menace and it is going to affect the region. And you know, the Proxy, the people from outside, those who are eyeing the resources, the natural resources in the continent of Africa, they thrive on chaos. When the government becomes incapable, inviting those people, come and help, that's when they will be siphoning oil. That is exactly what happened in Libya. When the government is not in control for its own resources. Remember, this is an investment from France. It is 16 billion USA dollars. So it is a huge investment, and that kind of anarchy, Miriam, the region is going to suffer. More than 1,500 people have already died. The African Union has not committed itself. SADC has not committed itself. The United Nations, no life should be lost, even if it is one person. More action should be taken. But from what I have gathered, the government of Mozambique needs help. They cannot be able to combat these people are having sophisticated weapons. Miriam, and these are a bunch of youth, unemployed youth. Where are they getting these sophisticated weapons, Miriam, to launch this kind of war? So it means there's someone invisible who are sponsoring these young people. And the sooner we use the intelligence, Qatar cannot be ruled, Turkey cannot be ruled, France cannot be ruled. A destabilized region is good for the external people, Miriam.
All right, thank you so much. Saxon, what do you think is happening there in Mozambique, and why do you think President Filipe Nyusi has not really treated this matter with the urgency it deserves? All right, Saxon, I think he's having troubles with his signal there, but I noted we've been joined by Mr. Philip Tabata. Mr. Philip, good morning.
Morning, my dear. How are you doing?
We are very fine. Thank you. Thank you for joining us today. So we were looking at what is happening there in Mozambique and the possible impact it might have in the region there. So before we get into the region, we've noted there President Filipe Nyusi has not been able to decisively deal with the rise of extremist group there in Mozambique. Okay, you might want to just reduce the volume of your gadget there so that we're able to communicate effectively, please. All right, very well. So why do you think? Why do you think that is so?
Yeah, the problem, my dear, is we have a situation which has not been taken very serious as it is, which we need to have already moved in and quashed it when it was beginning, because this is terrorism, and because ISIS is a Middle Eastern problem, is not supposed to come into Africa. And the AU and also SADC should have moved in fast. Not only AU and SADC, the Americans, they need to realize that whatever we suffer, they are going to suffer the most because they are the ones that have invested in that region. However, having said that, what has President Nyusi done? President Nyusi is under distress right now. He's a brother that is under attack from these foreign culprits, which we all should have gathered together in the SADC. This is showing poor leadership in the SADC region. I don't care who is listening and I don't care who is not listening. They need to realize, our leaders need to realize that they failed to take leadership on
Why didn't you come in
this issue, because we can't allow these terrorists area. And as a result, President Nunes must be supported right now. So must be advised by the big brothers. He has big brothers. He's a young man actually. He has big brothers that have been in these wars, that know the consequences of these wars, and that know what to do with this type of attacks. If Zimbabwe is willing and given the opportunity and the support, I think Zimbabwe can take care of that situation in a week or two in Mozambique. But I think also Zimbabwe cannot move into that situation in Mozambique by itself. The whole region has to put on forces on the ground, all the resources, because one country, we don't want to be bled, because these people are well supported. So looking at that, I would say, yes, there is something the AU and the SADC should have done. And there is something that the leader, if we have leaders in AU and SADC, they should do something right.
All right, very well. Thank you so much, Mr. Philip Jabata there from Zimbabwe.
And my dear, forgive me because I'm traveling.
All right.
I'm in South Africa.
Oh, you're in South Africa right now?
Yes, I'm going for a meeting right now in another area.
All right, very well. Thank you so much. We appreciate your time. I've also seen we've been joined by, is it Munyenyi or who? I can't remember that name very clearly, but the lady.
Munei.
Who?
Comrade Munei.
From where I am, I can't see because the screen is what we're using to get all the signals from. All right, go ahead. I've seen Munei, but I've seen also the lady in the car. I can't remember exactly her name.
Okay.
No, there's Abigail. No, there's another one.
I think there is Miss Bongile who's in the car.
Ah, Miss Bongile. That is the one I want.
Yeah.
Yes.
And good morning to you, Miriam. As usual, I will duck in and out. I'll duck out to have my work meeting at 9 o'clock, which is about.
All right.
And then I'll get back again as soon as I finish that one.
All right. So the same question I asked Mr. Jabata there. Why do you think President Filipe Nyusi of Mozambique has not perhaps handled the issue of extremist group there, especially in the northern part of the country, with the urgency and the seriousness it deserves? Is he overwhelmed, as Mr. Philip Jabata there has said?
Okay. Maybe for context sake, if he had asked me in 2017, or even if he had asked me early this year, up until around June, July time, when I attended one virtual meeting at Chatham House regarding this particular issue, I would have said straight away, let's go in guns blazing because we've got a lot to lose. But the further I have followed the case and looked at it from various angles, my position is slightly shifted, and I'll explain why in a short while. So it is of interest. Professor Jade was saying something when I joined about looking at the actors involved in this conflict. So in any conflict, if you are going to get involved, you have to look at the actors involved. And when you are looking at the actors involved, you go beyond those that have been titled terrorists, insurgents, or something like that. Because as Professor Jha said, most of these are just young people who now have sophisticated weaponry that they are now using, from when they were just throwing petrol bombs in 2017 to where they now are with, the most up-to-date explosives and weaponry. So you have to look at that and understand, and then begin to ask yourself questions as regards to who are the main actors in this conflict, and what are the interests of those main actors. Beyond the insurgents, these boys are happy to be given whisks, a bottle of whiskey, few drugs there, and a few US dollars, and they go causing mayhem. Okay, they are not the main actors. So, to your question, there is something that one Mozambican expert, Adriano Novunga, who is Mozambique Center for Democracy and Development, has said, and it is an interesting statement. He has said this, and I quote: "The state does not have either the capacity or the motivation to fight these insurgents." Now, if you are a military intelligence officer in Zimbabwe, for example, or in Botswana or South African military, and this kind of statement is thrown at your desk, and you are analyzing whether you can send your soldiers, your military, potentially sacrifice the lives of your sons and daughters in this military venture, you would ask yourself, why is there no motivation from the Mozambican government, and why do they lack capacity? Okay. Is it because they don't have the resources? But particularly is the motivation. If they don't have the motivation to fight for their gas, to fight for their minerals in the Cabo Delgado minerals, why should outsiders have the motivation and interest? Now, let's get back to actors. Professor Jha earlier on said France is involved through its Total company and other companies. But the main actor in that is ExxonMobil, an American-based company run by the Rockefellers, which has committed US 30 billion to explore gas and minerals in that province, in that region. It is a region of 16 districts, predominantly Muslim. I think only a couple of districts in that province has got a higher population of Catholics, Christians, compared to the rest of all the other districts. Now, so what are the interests of ExxonMobil? We know recently in September, America issued a request to Zimbabwe to get involved in the Cabo Delgado terrorist, or what they are calling terrorist activities. But why would they make such a request? They have their biggest oil company investing in Mozambique. Why are they not being active participants to stop these insurgents? So these are questions that SADC and Zimbabwe have to ask themselves before they commit to fighting these insurgents. Because it will be, for Zimbabwe, it will be a war like another DRC, where you get in guns blazing because you want to stand up and, and support the brother, but you soon realize you are not fighting these small boys. You are actually fighting
other forces.
Other forces.
All right, very well, and we will come to that, and we shall look at that there. Monet, thank you so much. I'm also told that we're joined by Professor Mutola, I think from Mozambique itself. Good morning.
Unmute. Professor Mutola, Matthews, unmute.
Okay, now can you hear me?
Hi, good morning.
Morning, how are you?
Very well, thank you. And thank you for joining us on the show today. I'm told you're joining us from Mozambique.
Yes, that's right. I'm a Mozambique based in Maputo, basically.
All right, very well. So your president, Filipe Nyusi, has been accused of not being hands-on and giving the conflict there in Mozambique the attention and the urgency it requires there. How would you rate President Filipe Nyusi's response to the conflict that has been ongoing there, especially in the northern part of Mozambique? Has he done a good job?
Well, personally, maybe I'm going to be a little bit personal in answering your question. I believe that probably there could be other reasons behind, which could be probably just known to the president himself and his cabinet, why they've taken so long to deal with this issue. Because I remember when it all began about 3 years ago, when it came to the public, the government responded saying that was all under control and that they were just small boys who did not know what they're doing, but then they were going to stop them. But then 3 years have gone now, and every year, every month, basically, the situation gets worse up over there. And I believe there could be some conflict of interests right now as far as this situation is concerned, because of the resources which are being discovered over there, like the gas and the oil and plasma and other minerals. So there is probably a conflict of interest between what the government would want to do and what the public, the population would want to see come to pass over there. And when it all began, I believe back then, I still believe today, that one of the many reasons why we had this situation going on is because you find that there are so many young people involved in this. Basically, most of them are teenagers who should be at school, should be maybe having their family in the farms or something like that, but they're all getting into this. Why? When it all began first, the interview, the few which were interviewed back then, the reason they presented why they were getting involved into this was, number one, the high rate of unemployment. And if you watch Cabo Delgado and Maputo in particular, you'll find that the rate of unemployment is very high over there comparatively to Maputo, though still the rate is still elevated, very high in Mozambique, Maputo actually. So they got into this situation because they allegedly they wanted money because of unemployment. And then the other reason they presented was that they are not being involved in the management of the resources over there. It's like some people come from wherever they come from, they explore the minerals, the resources, and they go and they're not benefiting or investing in the local in the building of local resources and infrastructures. So they delved into all of this. But myself, I believe that there could be reasons behind the reason why the government did not stop them right from the beginning. Mm-hmm. So when I say the government, I'm not saying the whole cabinet, but probably some people in there might have personal interest over there, because when there is conflict over that place, it is easier for outsiders to come and explore the minerals and take whatever they want to take and loot and go. Mm-hmm. And probably they thought they could control the situation, but I believe now they realize it's already out of control. That's why probably they try to ask for help from outsiders from other countries to see if they could come. But I remember that when this all began, outside countries tried to help. They offered themselves. I think there was Russia involved, if I'm mistaken. They tried to help, and the government said, no, we got situation under control. But now it is totally out of control, because these guys have taken a hold of the very powerful places on Cabo Delgado. For example, police stations, they're controlling the bay, where so we got the bay by the sea over there. They've taken control of the place, and that's dangerous because that allows them to have outside. I mean, they can receive weaponry and extract minerals and send to and forth from Mozambique because they got a control over that part of the country.
All right.
So my take is President News probably is now rethinking about the place and situation, see how it can probably get the situation under control.
All right, thank you so much, Professor Matthias Mutola there from Mozambique. Prof, just stay there, because I would like us to go through the elections and that peace deal that was signed between, the government and the rebels there, and what followed the elections that are disputed, and if at all that has anything to do with the increased violence that we're seeing there. But let's go now to Abigail Mupambi from Zimbabwe. Abigail, good morning. Abigail, good morning.
A very good morning to you.
All right, nice talking to you this morning. And yes, the conflict that has been ongoing there in Mozambique. Let's just start with why do you think President Filipe Nyusi has been accused? As a professor there has rightly put it, when the conflict started, a lot of countries had offered to come in and help Mozambique, but President Nyusi said, no, we have it all together. But now things seems to have fallen apart. And just a couple of weeks ago, rather 2 or 3 months ago, I think he was pleading with the EU to come and offer some help. I've not seen any EU country coming there, so I don't know why they are reluctant. But how would you, how would you rate President Nyusi's handling of this conflict? And do you think, if not properly handled, it could mean a crisis to the neighboring countries there, in especially the southern part of Africa?
Thank you so very much. I think that to have part of other contributions, but basically I think that every country has its own prestige, and of course I think they underestimated this conflict, and I think genuinely the president thought that they were going to be able to curb this, and they never thought that it was going to go this far. But that being the case, I don't think that can be. We can continue finding comfort in blaming.
Okay, Abigail, you seem to be having a problem there.
There is reasonable cause for us to do something. Yes, as SADC and as the AU. Yes, he's calling the AU to come on board and assist, but the history, the African history of colonization should inform us very much. In this platform, we have been talking about Pan-Africanism, Afrocentric issues. What are we doing as SADC? Because to me, you can say this is an indirect attack to the neighbors, but if you go deeper, you say it is a direct attack to the neighbors, because we know the interest, it's gas, it's minerals, but at the end of the day, this is exactly the war that we are facing as Africa. This is exactly the war that we are facing as Zimbabwe. So I think that they only afford a line of weakness through Mozambique, but surely we must be informed that history must tell us that soon after catching up with the Mozambique, Zimbabwe is not spared, or South Africa, like any other country. I think it's not a moment for us to be drawing lines and say who failed where, why didn't the president accept, and of course the offers then, because every country has its own prestige, and of course they will be believing in themselves. But I think the situation is as you can see, has gone out of hand, and it's an issue that I think we should zero in as SADC and as neighbors, and let's not allow ourselves and fool ourselves and say that this is a Mozambican issue. This is a SADC issue. This is a neighbors issue. This is an African issue that we should soberly look at. So basically, I think the president was probably genuinely anticipating that they will be able to deal with this conflict.
Mm-hmm. All right, thank you so much. I'm also informed that we are joined by, of course, Bongi Shumba. Bongi, good morning.
Good morning to you. Good morning, everyone.
All right, nice to
see us all.
Mm-hmm. Okay, nice to see you this morning. So I know a couple of our panelists there has mentioned, even Abigail has said that this is not just a Mozambique problem, it is a SADC problem. Well, SADC had a meeting in August this year, 2 months ago, I suppose, and the 40th Heads of State Summit of the Southern Africa Development Community, that is SADC, meeting in Maputo, actually in Maputo in August this year, pledged commitment to support Mozambique in addressing terrorism and violent attacks. That was a pledge that SADC made in August this year, and also they made another one. I think that was the African Union earlier, I think in May or thereabout. But we have not seen a clear framework from SADC to come in and actually put structures in place on how they want to come in and help Mozambique. Why do you think SADC is derailing in this matter that requires so much urgency?
Most of us have actually articulated on that one, this war is not just an ordinary war that is being brought about by the young boys as we see it, or as we are made to believe. There is obviously a very strong power behind this insurgency. And all our SADC leaders are aware of that. Every leader almost knows that there is something hidden in terms of who is sponsoring this war. And obviously there are some interests there. And usually what we have seen before is when these so-called hidden powers eye something, they set their eye on something, they will have nothing to deter them from achieving or accomplishing it. Like our friend Comrade Munei gave a very good example of the DRC. When we went into DRC as SADC, it was almost like the war was won. But if I tell you, even up to now, there is still disturbances years after war and wars. And when you looked at it, it was just people coming as insurgents from within the country. But whoever sponsored their weaponry, whoever trained them, was that big power who was behind all that. It's the same thing with Mozambique. So I think the reason why SADC appears to be dragging or to be reluctant is obviously they haven't actually zeroed into the very problem. You cannot just attack or defend yourself from something that you don't know much about. They do not know. They could be speculating right now as to what could be causing all this or who could be behind this. But in reality, they do not know exactly what it is. And even if they know, let's say maybe they know, but it's hard. It becomes a guerrilla warfare because the person who is fighting us, I say us because it's everyone's problem, what's happening in Mozambique. So whoever is fighting us right now, we don't know where they are coming from. We don't know their strategies. It's good to fight with a war or to fight in a war that you are very sure of.
All right. Mm-hmm. Okay, very well. Very well, Madam Bongi Shimba there. I suppose from London this morning. All right, thank you so much. We're also joined by, I don't know if I can say that first name, Wenceslas. Mr. Mangaza. I just stick to Mr. Mangaza. Good morning, sir, if you're listening. All right, so while we wait for him to join us, we also have Daniel Wesonga from Kenya here. Daniel, good morning.
Yes, very, very good morning, Miriam. Good to at our quarters, our comrade from Zimbabwe and also comrade from Mozambique are there.
And so our guest, Bongi, there is saying that perhaps the reason why SADC is dragging its feet is because it has not zeroed in what is happening there in Mozambique. We've had this problem for a while now. How long does it have to take for SADC to have a framework on how to deal with issue? Daniel.
Yes, Miriam, when it comes to resources in Africa, there's always more that meets the eye. And as Comrade Munei Zavari said there, that it always has something to oscillate about the African resources. And that is why, we have to ask, as African people, we have to ask ourselves the pertinent question. How come that is it that only regions in Africa where we have massive resources like Congo, we've never had peace, even during the independence time. We remember Patrice Lumumba didn't have quite some time in being the Prime Minister of Congo. The country has been bedeviled by coup after coup. Look at Nigeria, the Delta region of Nigeria. It has never had a very stable, peaceful government there. People are always in turmoil, fighting one another. look at South Sudan, whatever is happening in the Africa's youngest nation. So it's a question of asking ourselves, these chaotic scene that we are seeing in the resource nation of Africa by coincidence or by design. And when you look beneath the Miriam, it is because we have a lot of foreign interference, people who are benefiting amid this chaos. And Tino Achebe wrote that whenever two brothers fight, it is the neighbor who inherits the property and the land. And that is what is happening in Africa. And when you read quite adequately about the history of Africa, you realize that although due to the Atlantic Charter that was signed by between the US and Britain under the Prime Minister by then Winston Churchill, the European powers who had colonized Africa were much willing to leave Africa, but not entirely. They wanted to leave, but still be at the center of the administrative powers of the African states that they deemed to be their colonies. And therefore, since independence, although we perceive ourselves to have gained control of our governance and our leadership, we don't have those absolute powers of our resources, of our political discourses, and the Western powers have always been at the center of our conflicts for their own selfish interests. And therefore, whatever is happening in Mozambique is not any different from whatever is happening in Congo, whatever is happening in South Sudan, whatever is happening in Mali and other resource states in Africa. So as African people, I think we've been failed by our regional blocs such as SADC. We've been failed our neighbors. And we remember Ghana was the first African state to gain independence. But Nkrumah was very, very, very categorical when they got independent. He told the Ghanaian people that our independence means nothing if all the rest of Africa shall be left behind and are not attended to and are helped to attain the independence. And that is what even happened. What happened in Zimbabwe when Zimbabwe got the independence? They had to assist other African countries, including South Africa, to gain independence before they could be able to move forward. And that had a lot of implications. And therefore, it is not just enough for the African states to see whatever is happening in Mozambique without having to come in and give a helping hand. I believe we have to talk about it. We have to call upon the African heads of state. We have to call upon SADC to act, to take a very proactive role in ensuring that we have some peace and tranquility in the region of the Cabo Delgado in Mozambique, Miriam.
All right, very well. I don't know if you still have Saxon. He joined earlier and he had a bit of some signal problem there. Saxon, are you able to hear us? Good morning.
Can you hear me?
Yes, good morning. All right, very well. So,
yes.
Okay, I'm coming to you. So we know that Cabo Delgado is an extremely poor and neglected province, 2,600 kilometers north of Mozambique and capital Maputo. Now, the people in Cabo Delgado face extreme weather conditions, violence, and of course weak public services. That is according to some analysts from there, and very limited access to basic health care. The needs are said to be very huge there. It is a region, however, with a lot of natural resources such as rubies, oil, timber, and gold, and a huge economic potential. From your own, if you listen to that, this is an area that is rich in terms of all these natural resources, and also it's one of the extremely has the rate of extreme poverty there in Mozambique. Is this not an already fertile ground for chaos, just from the onset?
Not really. Mozambique has been involved in having a lot of challenges, and the underhand dealings of this conflict, the ones behind the conflict, they took advantage of the poverty that is ensuing in Mozambique. And Mozambicans have been involved in a lot of wars. They've never known peace. And the hidden hand, which is probably the CIA, was mostly the ones who are behind all this. They took advantage of the situation that the Mozambicans are having, not having jobs, because the nation has been involved in wars. A lot of infrastructure has been destroyed. And they capitalized on this and started funding. That's what they do. They create chaos and they fund it. Mm-hmm. So, in a nutshell, the Mozambican crisis is a creation of the West and the MI6, the CIAs, to take advantage of the resources. Because most of the companies that are mining these resources are American-owned, and for the Gemfield, it's a UK-owned company, but they're not doing anything to support the local people, despite having access to the resources.
All right. Well, thank you so much there, Saxon. I don't know who else is in line there. I don't know if Mr. Mangaza. Maina has joined. Ambassador Maina has joined. Sorry? Yes. Go ahead, Professor.
Maina wants to come in.
Okay. Ambassador Maina, go ahead. Good morning.
Very good morning to you guys. I want to thank Professor Mutula to give us some insight information about Mozambique. But my question is that I want to bring us back. One of our fellow comrades said that the CIA was funding the M16 and the USA. And have we discovered, first of all, what is the real problem of Zimbabwe, the real problem of the youth? You have not empowered the youth, you leave them on their own. If somebody else come take care of them, why are you complaining? Because you need to know what is your own responsibility. Do we really think that in Africa, our mineral resources are making us rich? Do you guys think that we are rich? We are not, because we African, we don't need mineral resources. We need ourselves. France don't have anything. French, they don't have anything. The only thing they have is their head, but they have more than 26 countries that are controlling in Africa. Do we need to use our head or we need to use our mineral resources? Because it's not helping us. What making us more poor now in Africa? Because African has put in their head that they are very rich. How come you are rich and you are struggling? You can't eat. You can't even drink clean water and you say you are rich. You are not. The situation or why we cannot sit down to understand exactly how are we going to go about it. Inside is talking about the West.
So can you suggest how do
you
we
can't
go
tell
about
me
it?
that you can't say that right now we need ExxonMobil to come and build hospital in Cabo Delgado, or we need a road. Is ExxonMobil have to do that, or schools? Come on, that is the basic thing that we don't need white people to do for us. Do we need them? Do you guys agree we need Exxon to come and build a healthcare center or school or roads? Those basic things, or just water. We don't need that. We are just, let us concentrate to see that we as African, how we can cope in one block to see that some of the issue we need to address in ourselves. Knowing that right now, AU, SADC, they are not working on the favor of African. Why we cannot bring a strategy, we as a young generation, to think that we need to form a bloc that we can fight those kind of things and to make sure it works. Because we have complained for 60 years now. For 60 years, we are complaining. We didn't have a solution. The situation going on in Mozambique, for me, I cannot bring the West inside. The situation has started with the Mozambique government. If you don't empower your people, so a stupid person will come and empower them to use them. It's the same thing happening in Boko Haram. Nigeria has left the northern Nigerian. They forget about those. There is no education. They leave them. Now a stupid person come and empower them, give them weapon, and they start fighting government. And now we know we are in an era that is very easy for the population to fight the government because they have all the resources. It's not like before. Right now, getting a weapon is one of the easiest things. We went through those difficulties in Chad. We know what it means, the population, when they want to fight the government. What is the number of the army in the whole Mozambique? They are less than maybe 500,000. What is the population? You cannot tell me 500,000 can sustain the number of the population when decide to fight the government. Now, the situation, we need to understand exactly what is our main reason. How are we going to go about it to make sure that when we want to confront those problems, we see them on our own problem, not the West. Because I can't believe that CIA come just in Mozambique. Why CIA need to Mozambique? They don't need that. Why did they need to go there? They don't need that. Americans, they are very rich. They don't need us. They can even print money and buy you. Buy the whole Kenya, buy Tanzania, buy Mozambique. Why did they need to fight? Sometimes when you don't want to know your own problem, you always try to accuse your neighbor. We don't have to accuse our neighbor now. The situation in Mozambique is an African problem. And we need to make sure that we as a young generation, if we can come up with a system to develop our local communities to make sure that they are real in power and no one can come and change their mind with small money. Because when you say that in Cabron, when you go there is no road. You can't even have a phone, Miriam. Simple things. If you are sick, you can't even buy medication. Do you think that to be a rebellion in this area is a difficult thing? Because you are already frustrated. A frustrated person is just say hi and he will slap you. That's the truth. We see it in many countries. Those are the situation we need to confront, that we as an African, we face it. And the Mozambique president, he'll have helpless because of the majority of the African leaders. I want you, Miriam, to understand very well. Our problem is we are late reactors. Our paradigm has been settled that we don't see problem coming. We only spend our time to react on the problem. Because we have the same issue in Congo. It's happened to Zimbabwe, it's happened to Mozambique, happened to Nigeria, it happened to Cameroon, it happened to Chad. Why?
All right.
Why we cannot plan like those Western people? At least we can plan for 50 years, that we know that in 50 years there will be this kind of problem, and this is the way we have to address the issue.
All right.
Why we have
the southern part of Nigeria was so much advanced in terms of infrastructure, in terms of even education. They neglected the north, and for their own well-known reasons, for them to do that, they did that to Nigeria and more other parts of Africa. So these are problems that was created by the colonialists, and perhaps we have to understand that these are people who are still meddling in the African affairs, and therefore we can never talk about peace and tranquility in Mozambique or any other part of Africa devoid
without
of
mentioning the external factors.
All
right, very well, understood. So last year, in August, Mozambique President Filipe Nyusi and the leader of the country's main opposition party, Renamo Osufo-Momade, signed a new peace deal agreement pledging to end years of violence and pave the way for elections in October. That was last year. A month later, the country received Pope Francis, whose presence was aimed at strengthening the peace agreement. Despite the deal, the election campaign was marred by political violence, targeting mainly opposition supporters. During 2019, the spate of attacks by suspected Islamist armed group increased in the northern part of province, that is Cabo Delgado, and soldiers deployed to the region to fight the armed groups who are implicated in acts of intimidation, arbitrary arrest, and ill treatment of detainees. And of course, journalists and activists continued to face intimidation and harassment, and there has been lack of accountability for some of the past crimes there. Professor Mutola Matthias, does any of that has any bearing in regards to the situation that is happening right now in Mozambique? Is Professor Mutola there?
Yes, you will come back. Okay.
All right. Yeah. So we saw the elections last year that were marred with a lot of violence. It's one of the things that I followed keenly last year. And so is there a possibility that also part of the violence could be associated with the opposition, who feels the elections were not even held in a more credible and fair way there in Mozambique?
Well, I think we have two situations over here, because we have the insurgencies which are coming over in Cabo Delgado, but also we have the former president of the main opposition party, who also started commotion because he does not agree with the policy of the new president for their party. So we have two situations happening. One we have in the north, which is Cabo Delgado. The second one is in the center, called the Beira. That's where there's another war coming in because of the general. The general is the former general for the former president of the Renamo party in Mozambique. But then I think the two situations totally different, one from the other, though in a way they may be connected in the sense that they cause instability in the country as a whole, because the people dying in the center of Mozambique, but also are people dying in the north of Mozambique, which is now Cabo Delgado. But they just rather than some of the thoughts here exposed by some of our colleagues. I believe one of the challenge we have here in Africa and Mozambique in Africa, is I think to do with the leadership. We have the greatest leadership since we began to gain independence. I believe the people that took over from colonial masters probably did not have a clear vision into what they wanted to do as far as building their country. Mostly, we have the idea that we can make an inference in the sense that the people that took over from the colonial masters, like in Mozambique, they just wanted to replace the colonial masters without a clear-cut plan for the building of the country. And I believe this is what's happening now, because I think greed crept in, and then they got in power in the sense that not wanting to build the country, but wanted to substitute, replacing the colonial masters. And eventually they began to behave like the colonial masters. There is an interesting book by George Orwell called Animal Farm. I've read that book. It's interesting because you find that animals began to revolt against their masters, human beings, and they took over the farm. And before they took over, there was a constitution which said all animals are equal. But then they had to have leaders, and they chose the pigs to lead. And eventually the pigs began to behave different from what they'd agreed previously. And they amended the constitution and said all animals are equal, but some are more equal than the others. So I think this is what's happening right now. It's been happening actually in most African countries, and Mozambique in particular, because we see president after president with all the promises they always make, but at the end of the day, they just behave like the former colonial masters. And this is what we need to change. Like one colleague was saying, we need to build a block where young people can begin to have the interest of their country in their own heart, and begin to find for strategies to build the nation in the sense that we will stop having maybe in a short, medium time plan for rebuilding the people in their countries, and make sure that the resources do benefit the population, or at least the majority of the population, because the other challenge in Mozambique is that the resources, there is an equal distribution of the resources in the country. And we have a situation whereby the rich gets rich and the poor gets poorer. And this does not help. Just to conclude, I wouldn't agree much with one colleague which said that Mozambique is poor. This country is not poor, and it has never been poor. It's just there is a poor management. We have greedy people in power that are just focusing on their own selves rather than on the people. And this is what happened, because when the war began in Cabo Delgado, the president, the government was informed. They knew in the first place, let me say Nicodemously, but they were also notified publicly the situation in Cabo Delgado. And I remember the president came publicly saying the situation is under control. Probably he thought, really, generally he thought it was under control, but eventually it got out of control. And the question is, why did he not act immediately? Was notified of the situation in Cabo Delgado. He had to wait up to now. What was happening behind all that? And I'm sure he was aware that there was the looting, the taking away of the resources in the country. And when they take resources out of the country, of course, there's always a big cut that's left for him or part of his cabinet. And I think this is the challenge. We need visionary leaders and leaders that really, like Kwan Nkrumah would say, really love their people. They want to build Africa as a whole. They want to build the nations in particular, but also Africa as a whole.
All right, very well. And Professor Mutola, before I go to another person, there has been accusations that the locals, especially there in Cabo Delgado, the northern province there in Mozambique, a lot of them perhaps were removed and misplaced so that to pave way for the multinational companies to set up shops there, and so that the issue of migration and settlement has not been adequately been addressed. And also when these multinational companies came there and set shops and the locals were affected, they have not been able to gain much from these companies. Is that accurate? And if so, could this be part of the frustration from the locals there, that perhaps it has been easier to come in and manipulate them into fighting the government?
Miriam, thank you for that good question, and I'm indeed grateful to Professor Matthews for giving us the true insight. You know, what we are trying to give, we are just trying to give academic what we have just read, but it's inside Mozambique, and whatever it tells us, we have got no reason not to believe what it's telling us. And for the first time, I hope Ambassador Maina is listening to me, that I entirely agree with the sentiments of Ambassador Maina. Let me just have this to say, Miriam. You know, my background of training is development, Miriam. And you cannot take development, Miriam, to the people if you don't inform them. They must understand this development you are doing. How is it going to benefit them? You must be able to involve them, Miriam. You can't. You can bring all wonders, bring angels to bring any investment, Miriam. You must be able to involve them and consult them how these things want to be done, Miriam. Professor Mutola has raised very fundamental issue, Miriam. There is unemployment. There is poverty and there's corruption. And let me tell you, I have followed these challenges, Miriam. Immediately, Sheikh Robo, the one for people, for the Al-Shabaab in Kenya was killed. You know, those people moved to Tanzania and they moved and they settled in Mozambique. And Miriam, one of the things I've come to realize about the government of Mozambique, they don't make use of intelligence. And if they make, they ignore for their own benefit because they know what they're doing. Miriam, we need to know sincerely. And so this is where I'm agreeing with Miriam. We cannot create, with Minor, you cannot create conducive environment for the young people to come to be used. You marginalize people. You don't think about them. What do you expect the West to need resources from the continent of Africa? They will make use of it. Do you turn again and blame the West? So Miriam, we should be able to understand. And let me tell you, if what we are discussing today and some of the recommendation we are giving, I'm telling you, those young people are going to destabilize the government of Mozambique. They started in a small way.
Yes.
They have become a monster now.
Yes.
We must know who is using these young people, who is financing them, and how do we bring those young people on board to engage them, have a conversation for them.
Okay.
If they are claiming, Miriam, they have been marginalized, you are using resources from their area. You are not compensating them, Miriam. Do you expect them they cannot fight? They have got nothing to lose, even if they die, because they are already engulfed in poverty. But what we need to do, Miriam, now, we are talking about the region. More than 1,000 people have already lost life, which we cannot get it again. More than 220 people, Miriam, have been displaced. This is the kind of conversation, Miriam, we should have. People cannot be removed from their homes, Miriam. And remember what happened in Sierra Leone, where these people are beheading and killing innocent people. So, Miriam, the government of Mozambique, SADC, should wake up and African Union and come with a solution. I heard one of the comrade from Zimbabwe saying that Zimbabwe will attack on those people. It is not as easy as you think. Terrorists, you don't handle them, you don't just go and fight them. Do you know that? They are not marked. Terrorists are just people like you. When you come, they just retreat. So what we need, Miriam, to do is to have a conversation and involve people so that these people does not spread into the region. Some of these people have started going to southern Tanzania. So Miriam, the region is at anarchy, is in fearful, and that's why I want to hear from Ambassador Minor. What is the way forward?
And before
how do we just push these innocent people?
Yes, and I will
women and children.
Yes, and
from their homes.
I will come to Ambassador Minor, but first let's go to Mr. Philip Chibata, and he had something to say there. And what Professor Mutola Matthias said is that in Mozambique is not poor. They only have only the management there is poor. Can you draw some parallel with perhaps Zimbabwe? Would you say the same?
Yeah, Miriam, thank you so much for the opportunity again. We're taking a break. I'm listening to the professors, and I'm saying they're saying whatever they are saying is true, but it's good for the classroom. And I was listening to the ambassador. I say to myself, Ambassador, if you were a Zimbabwean ambassador, I would reject you. I wouldn't want you to represent me anyway, because of the situation we are facing right now.
Okay.
Because one, professors, I want them to understand that Iraq was devastated and destroyed, not because the young people were not employed. young people of Iraq were employed. Libya was destroyed. Libya was destroyed, professors, not because young people of Libya were not employed. Libyans were living very good, better than we are doing in Kenya or in Zimbabwe or in other countries of Africa. We need to understand the root cause of this. First, this is ISIS. ISIS is Islamic State of Syria and Iraq. What are they doing in Africa? They are terrorists. They need to be kicked out of the. We should come together as brothers and sisters. Even if we have problems, but Iraq has no right to be. The ISIS has no right to be causing havoc in Africa. If they were just Africans, like what you are saying, Boko Haram and all these, those are situations that we know the roots are because of tribal situations and all that. But you professors of history and professors in our colleges, you should be informing us well. I want you to understand, my brothers, that I agree with all what you have said. I don't want you to bring wrong information to the people, because when you speak, people listen. And when you lecture in those classes, people are listening. Ambassador, I want you to be a good ambassador who can represent us and we can be proud of you. Let's tackle this issue. ISIS has no right to be in Mozambique. And we need our friends, especially South Africa, to take the leadership. President Cyril Ramaphosa, he has been sitting on his laurel. We want him to begin to be a leader in the region. We don't want them to be telling us that they are a first world class economy. This issue needs us to put resources. We need to think as brothers to fight an enemy that is coming into our backyard. President Nyusi must be supported by all Africans. And all our professors, you need to begin to turn our minds and our hearts there. It is because of the heart that our young people are going to rise and fight the enemy that is coming into our backyard. Not because of the resources and give ourselves comfort of resources and all this. If you are going to be teaching people this, you are putting poison in our people. This is an enemy that is coming in our backyard. ISIS must be kicked out of Africa. Any other problems that we have, let's deal with them as our problems. But let's start with this one. This ISIS thing is not African. Thank you, Miriam.
Let me just report on what the brother has misunderstood me.
Yeah, okay,
I have seen that the president of Mozambique had the intelligence. He just dismissed. You marginalize people. You allow them to be unemployed. You exploit their resources. You expect them to clap for you. What we are trying to say, the most African leaders have created grounds for these young people to join foreign ideologies. That's what we are trying to say.
All right, that is clear.
You are our leaders.
I am not supporting the young people, but we have created conditions.
Very well, very well.
Rise.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Professor Jared there. So let's bring in Madam Ebongi Eshamba there. So you've heard what the rest of the panelists there have said, and I think you also said this earlier, and Mr. Chabata there has said this cannot be a Mozambique problem. This should be an African problem. But we know that a couple of months ago, South Africa, I think, had intentions of coming in and helping Mozambique. I don't know. But ISIS came out in Mozambique and threatened South Africa, and South Africa has since been quiet. And of course, now we're saying this is an African problem and Africa should come in. And African Union has not even thought this is an issue of urgency that they should even, have a meeting very quickly and deal with. So I don't know why the rest of the African leadership has not really found this is important to deal with. And so, Madam
with fighting on the realm, Miriam, we have no African Union. That guy needs to go.
All right, but South Africa also was threatened and retreated back, and since they've not offered to help their President Philippe Nyusi, Ebongi, how can we go about it? I want to hear from the ladies.
Yes.
Bongi. Yes.
Quite interesting. It's really interesting. I've been listening to the professors, and I've been listening to my comrade Chabata there. Definitely, yes. From the professors, they have a point, and it's factual points. But again, that's theoretical. The situation we are faced with right now, it needs a hands on the deck. It needs
Thank you, sister. Thank you.
Like doing it now. But what I find very difficult now for our leaders, perhaps, is how do we do it? How do we get into this? Because it's like there is no one size fits all when we are approaching such issues. Each issue is unique to its own self. And AU, definitely, they should do something about it. And the same thing with the SADC leadership. They really need just to be man enough and sit down and come up with a resolution, come up with a plan at least, so that we can see that at least they've started doing something. They're working towards it. Because if we keep theorizing and talking about it, and even the leadership just talking that, oh, we need peace in the region, yet there is no peace, yet there is no sign that we're doing anything to get peace, then we are not doing anything at all.
Mm-hmm. So we're not doing anything at all. For its part, Mozambique's military...
Abigail.
No, before you come in, Professor.
Abigail.
Oh yes, Abigail. I'm coming to Abigail. Yes, and I think on the same. How do we go about it? As Madame Bongi there has said, every situation in Africa we've seen, even when the United Nations is sending a special mission in a country, it is tailored around what they think is the priority on how to solve, either it's a peace conflict or mediation and all that. They have a special mission. So what will this mission look like? Should African Union just wake up from its slumber and decide, okay, let's go in, hands in the deck there, as Madame Bongi Shamba there has said? What should the rest of the countries in the continent do? What approach should we take? Courtesy of African Union, I guess. I mean, they're still the leaders of the continent. Abigail.
Thank you so very much. I actually think that some they are saying we must have a plan. For how long will we be planning? Probably a plan of action. I wanted actually to zero into the issue of the ambassador there and Mr. Chabata. I know the ambassador, theoretically, he has got a point and the facts, particularly around the issue of saying we have neglected the youth and something has to be done. Probably part of the engagements must include a framework of assuring them how are we going probably to practically empower them, because that's a problem. For as long as they are idle there, it becomes a loophole for the enemies. We are seeing it here, even in Zimbabwe. Some are engaged, I will repeat this, they are choosing actually to engage with the foreigners and abduct themselves, paint the nation black, particularly for an amount like 400 USD. At one point, I was a beneficiary of such money, but of course...
Yeah, tell them, sister, tell them.
Right. That has to be...
So at one point, you were involved in criminal activities there. Okay.
So,
but you're informed now.
Can make a right.
Yes.
We have a problem as Africa. We have a problem in Mozambique, but no two wrongs can make a right. Mm-hmm. So we cannot. The first issue that we must tackle is the external force. There is no justification whatsoever for them to be in Mozambique or in Africa or doing whatever that they are doing right now. So we should not actually find comfort in justifying such. Of course, there are indicators that we must do something right now. Coming on to the professor from Mozambique, mm-hmm. He highlighted that Mozambique is not poor, but there is only poor management. So he is acknowledging the poverty of ideas is the real poverty that we should be talking about.
God bless you, my sister.
So for as long as we are saying we have poor management, mm-hmm. we have poor ideas, we have poor strategies, we are poor.
So
simple.
Would you think the poverty management, Abigail, do you think that is the same problem with Zimbabwe? Would you say the same?
Yes, we have got a part of that as a problem. So we are saying we need to holistically look at these things and say, how are we going to approach these terrorists head on? How are we going to strategically engage with these youths who are lying idle, who have been neglected probably of certain platforms, but much holistically, the issue that I see after the liberation, the revolutions of the liberation struggles that we claim we attained independence, we have reduced those struggles, revolutionary struggles, to rebellion struggles. Why? Because we simply replaced the white men in the office, and we did not do much to change the systems that are governing us. We are having a system that we have just a takeover. We need to visit and revisit our educational curriculums. In Zimbabwe, we are highly educated. Believe me, we are highly educated in a part of Africa. But what is that which we are educated at? To become submissive subordinates, to become accountants of a company that does not exist, to become good managers of the companies that we don't own. So to become, you see, loyal to masters that we don't know. But we need now to revisit such curriculums and link our resources to our people. We know we need to be educated that we are masters of our own. We are masters of our own destiny. So to be good and professors that are very loyal to a master who is somewhere, then it's good as like we are having poverty of ideas, poverty of strategies. So we are poor. I wanted to actually to attend to that. Mozambique is poor even at the moment. So please, unless we identify that and we correct that and we acknowledge it, we will fail to take the next move. And we'll say, oh, no, we have got resources. Resources are underground. Do we know how to extract them? Resources are underground. We will die and be buried alongside our own resources because of poverty. So is that being rich? So we need to do something that is practical, Miriam.
All right, very well. And we know, and we know that despite...
Can I say something?
Before you come in, Ambassador, despite vast natural resources and one of the world's biggest untapped offshore gas fields, worth an estimated, listen to this, $50 billion US. That is what Mozambique has. The majority Muslim province is one of Mozambique's poorest, with high rates of unemployment and illiteracy. So the illiteracy factor, because you've seen even in Nigeria, when you look at the northern part of Nigeria, there's also the illiteracy factor there that Boko Haram and those extremist groups are able to take advantage of. And so I don't know if that even plays a part there. But Ambassador Minor, go ahead. You had something to say there.
Yeah, I want to say something. I don't know the difference what we call education in Africa or literacy. Literacy means that just knowing this Western education, following them, copy information. That's what we are calling we are educated. We are just a professional on gathering information that is not useful for us. Yeah. Do you know that when we go to the balance, this leader of Boko Haram, Shekau, is more intelligent than Buhari? He is not an educated person. Anybody who have the ability to brainwash a human being to go take his life is not a stupid person, my dear. Put it in your mind. He's very intelligent. Any man who can brainwash, can change another man's mind to go and die for, is not stupid. So education doesn't mean that we have PhD on Harvard. This is nonsense. This is information gathering. So what I'm trying to say, there is an adage coming from Kenya that we all Africa, we copy. The punishment on intelligent people or good people is not to be involved in politics. We Africans, we are paying the price because we think we are very intelligent, but we did not take action, to take over our country. That's why we are suffering. William Ruto is right. Any intelligent person or good person, if you don't take action from your country, do something, you will be punished. And this is the punishment you are paying for. Because someone will come and take your people, train them, and send them against you. We don't want to take the fact, but this is the truth.
But that is not William Ruto.
There is number two.
Here, is it?
Yep, that is the truth. He said that, right?
I don't know, but go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, when you go to this BBI meeting, you will hear what he said that. You are in Kenya, number one. And number two, when the ideology has been implemented, you cannot fight it. You see, that's what happening in the region of Delgado, you see what happening in Boko Haram. It's going to be difficult to fight it because the more you fight an ideology, the more the ideology become bigger. The only way to fight an ideology is to create the new one that can make the other one obsolete. That's it. Since me and you are born, this terrorist thing has been existing. They cannot wipe it out because always the more the people are not busy, the more another people will come and keep them busy. Our part, we African, we need to play right now. We need to take action to go and train our young generation. We need to empower them. Everybody can do his little. Many people in this world have contributed in Africa to make Africa a better place. You are talking about Kwame Nkrumah, you are talking about Mandela. They contributed little things, but this thing is still going. We don't have to complain. Today, if we say that we are poor, we are waiting Western people to come and help us, they will never come to help us. But we can help ourselves by training ourselves, do the little things to re-strategize, to make sure that then younger generation can take their responsibility to build their country. But they are idle. An idle man, they say that idle mind is a devil workshop. Am I right or wrong? This is how English people say. Right? Mm-hmm. So for me, I want to conclude. Let us tackle the issue of poverty, who is number one in Africa. Mm-hmm. That is the first proposal. Number two, we need to train this youth to take their responsibility, to teach them that this is your country. You need to come together and one block and try to build something good for you. The moment a community know what they want, when the foreigners come, the foreigner will come and abide with the law of this community. Mm-hmm. We know that in many countries in Africa here, communities are not even organized. You cannot tell me that in my village, the government can take a decision how they want if we are organized. No, if we have a very good community who's doing everything, the government will come and sit with us to tell us that we are having ExxonMobil who want to come and explore the gas resources, and this is the advantage they want to give us. We tell them, no, this is not good for us, but this is good for our community. Okay. We come to an agreement. But if we don't have even a community who are together, what do you want the government to do? They just decide for us. Mm-hmm. Right. That is my view. And number two, we need to implement the system that we can have the responsibility to build our country without involving the Westerners. Today, we don't need the West to build a country in Africa. Professor know that in Mozambique, the area where he's talking, some people cannot even afford 1 meal a day. So imagine that if someone come and finance them, is giving them $50 or $100 a day, they can go and die for it. Am I right or wrong? But if do you think that Mariam, who have an activity in Kenya, I can come and tell Mariam, come and join me, let's go to IC? She will say no. I am satisfied. I'm happy where I am. Because I have an activity. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Have you finished your points? So you've said the leadership in Mozambique and indeed a lot of African countries must tackle the issue of poverty and also have the community involved when it comes to matters development and what is going on. And also African countries should learn and know that they have a responsibility to build their own countries and not waiting for the West. So let me have in a Saxon. Saxon, are you still there?
What other panelists are saying? 1945.
Go ahead.
1945. When Africa started having independence, former colonizers have been coming with a hidden hand to destabilize. Because one, we inherited the educational system. What Africa needs to do is to change the educational system to have to bring about the issue of identity. Because once you are following the Western culture, you are most likely to be lured or whatever they're offering you. So the issue of interference cannot be ruled out. The reason why with China, the balance of power is shifting because nations realize that as long as we don't take ownership of our resources, we're in for it. Because the West has been known to be looting resources. The reason why we had the 1884 partition was. So we need to be mindful of that Africans should do.
All right, Saxon, my apologies. We seem to be having a problem.
We have our own solutions, not rely. All right.
We seem to be having a problem with the reception. I don't know if you could find a better better area so that we're able to get those very important points that you're making. Can you try again? We'll see if it will be okay this time.
How about now? Am I clear?
Yes, much better. I hope it stays that way. Go ahead.
I'm saying the issue for interference cannot be ruled out. History has told us that for the West to colonize us, it was resources. We've noticed everywhere good resources, we've had conflict. And who is funding these conflicts is the West. Colonization also created gaps, so that at least development in cascade the whole of Africa to all the communities. What we need to do is to change our education system, impact African ideologies in our local peoples. If you notice who are dying in Mozambique, the locals are killing their kids and kids, not valuing their brothers. They are not killing the whites, they are not killing the Russians, they are not killing the Chinese, not the Americans. They are killing their own brothers. That is they've been told that if you kill, you send a message. But what benefit like killing your own brother? You can see how the stabilization agenda coming out. Thank you.
All right, very well. So Saxon there is saying we cannot rule out interference from the West. And I think something that Abigail said, that the revolutionary struggles have been replaced with rebellion struggles. I don't know, Munei, what do you make of that? Is Munei there, or he usually have other meetings in between? Let me then go to Esonga, Daniel. All right, so I'll go back. Yes, are you there, Esonga?
Yes, and of course, agree totally with whatever Saxon and also with Philip Chabata. As much as we also have fishing in Africa, we have to look beyond the horizon to be able to see whatever is ailing us. And of course, as I said earlier, Miriam, the question of interference is quite open, and of course, even when we look at Congo, when the US through the CIA and saw that was quite drifting towards the Soviet Union, what they did is that by then the CIA and the president brought the operatives in the Congo to tell them that to be eliminated quite very fast, because their interests there were quite threatened. And therefore, these colonial powers have been having an interest in Africa. And you remember, at some point, they felt that Africa was their property in terms of resources, and they had to control even after the independence on how we govern ourselves. And that's why we had some countries really putting the preconditions on how the African state will receive their independence. And in countries like Guinea, where the leaders like Sékou Touré were very adamant on the way to govern themselves, moved out and they carried even the light bulbs in their offices. They could not even leave anything behind. So to me, I think as much as Africa, we have problem with our own people in terms of governance. Foreign interference hasn't allowed us to have a very conversation on how to govern ourselves. And until we get out these interference from our type of discourse, then we might not as well be having a very fruitful conversation and engagement on how to bring in Africa and how to talk about prosperity. So this now house has to be gotten rid of before we can be able to discuss and put our continent on the path of prosperity. Miriam, a question that we should ask ourselves: how did ISIS, a group which is predominantly in the Arab world, find itself in the middle of Mozambique? Someone might have carried these dissidents to Mozambique, and what is the motivation behind that? We also have to put that question to rest. And therefore, when you look at it from that perspective, then it tells you that it is not for the interest of the African people that we have ISIS in Mozambique, and it is not for the hard economic times or maybe the neglect of the young people in Mozambique that we are having these radicalized groups there. someone might have brought them there, and it's for the purpose of gaining the resources that are in Mozambique. And for that reason, France, Qatar, and other Western powers are answerable for that, Miriam.
All right, very well. And before I get into...
I have something to say as the discussion is going on. We are using the key things which Professor Mutora gave us of what's happening in Mozambique. We don't want to argue from theory. He said that when this insurgent came, the president of Mozambique said it is something small, I will deal with it.
The same way the president of Nigeria said Boko Haram.
Yeah, he said that is something small, he could deal with it. Russia offered to assist him, he said no. And as much as you have ever heard me using the hen and the mongoose lives in the forest, the hen stays in the house. The hen moves from the house to the forest, and the mongoose eats that hen. You start blaming the mongoose? Time has come for us as Africans. We keep on saying Mandela. We keep on saying Kwame Nkrumah. We keep on saying Comrade Mugabe. We keep on saying Jomo Kenyatta, Nyerere, Obote, and many of them for having struggled to do away with the colonial government. But we have got a lot to do in this point in time. Professor Mutora is telling you, the president, the government of Mozambique ignored the intelligence. I have given you the intelligence, how these people move. When we thrust them, we smoke them out in Kenya, they walk to Tanzania, they walk to Mozambique. Intelligence, where was the intelligence? Professor Mutora is telling us there is poor management. Professor Mutora is telling us there is poverty. The youth are unemployed. The companies, the American company and the France company, they invested, people were displaced from their homes and they were not compensated. Miriam, haven't we created enough condition for revolution? So Miriam, unless we know on how to deal with our people, and this is what I'm trying to say, that time for us to about lamenting about the coast, Qatar, France, America is all gone. Let us learn to treat our people with civility. Let us treat people as human beings. Let us know that these young people, no, Miriam, you can't discuss about people, young people, that you will do this for them when they are not on the table. We are trying to say we have to deliberately bring these young people, persuade them that they have to be patriotic to their countries and the continent of Africa. So Miriam, what we are trying to say is that let us start organizing Africa. And that's why we are asking Africa Union. We are asking SADC.
Abigail is saying part of the organization or reorganization of Africa should be us revisiting our education system. Will that be a solution, Professor? Will that be a solution?
Miriam, let me tell you, the education which has taken us all the way for the 60 years, let us address poverty. Let us involve people. And the education which you are talking about, it is easier to talk about the education. What do we want to involve young people on? Yes, today is a word of innovation. Today is a word of technology. Today is the word of whereby the young people have to be involved. We are talking about Miriam. The other day we used to shout and talk to young people. But this is the time we have to involve them. They have got a point to say. I say 1 billion African people, 1 billion solutions. We cannot discuss on that unless we involve them.
All right, very well.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
We are not trying to be very academic in class. We are trying to say, can we stop marginalizing people? Can we say that if we are bringing an investment in an area, we compensate people? We treat them as human beings so that we don't give these people to feel they are not a part of Mozambique, they are not part of Zimbabwe, they are not part of Kenya. We want to say that this is our continent and we have to treat people fair. Don't marginalize people.
Very well stated, Professor Jared there. Mr. Philip Chibata, you have something to say?
Miriam, I think you are the person that understands me better here. Because I'm not against what my brothers are saying, the professors. I agree with them that we have to deal with our issues of Africa for unemployment and all that. But this is not the topic for that. Our topic here is to say, if my brother, an enemy comes to my brother's house, my brother was not giving his children enough food, and we saw it, and he had enough land to have produced food to give to the children, but he didn't. But then an enemy comes to his house, and I say, and they take his children and start feeding them and coming to kill him. And I say, be killed because you didn't feed your children this other day. We are saying no to that. We are saying ISIS has no room in Africa. This is Africa. This is not the Middle East. And an enemy is coming to my brother's house. We all have to put our heads together and fight the enemy. If there's anything that I'll need to tell my brother Nus tomorrow and correct him, I'll correct him after we have kicked out the enemy. We need to unite, kick out the enemy, and we need to support our brother Nus because he is under attack. Professors, teach our people the correct thing.
But President Philippe Nyusi has not been very. President Philippe Nyusi has not been very. He said he wants some help, but he doesn't seem like he means he actually wants some help. So I think it has been all right. So before Professor Mutola comes in, there's a comment here by Dr. Matanga, who is watching us. Doctor, hello, and thank you for watching. And you're saying watching you a very good discussion. And he says this is directed to Ambassador Maina. Maina knows whose proxy war it is. The Al-Shabaab has links with Qatar, who wants oil and gas in Mozambique. So Ambassador Maina, Dr. Matanga is saying, you know what's happening there in Mozambique. You know what's the deal there. You know the people behind what is happening there, and your response will be? Ambassador, what will be your response to that comment directed to you?
Thank you so much. First of all, let's say, Ambassador Matanga, that I'm not Mozambican, so I've never been also in the Cabo Delgado. Saying, you know what, I know what happening is overrating me. The issues, every situation happening in Africa is the same. Why? Let me explain. Because of like the way our brother Mr. Chabata was saying, he is not taking his own responsibility. That's why he's trying to blame God, blame everybody. And the more you blame people, the more you will become blind and you can't find a solution. Dr. Matanga is right. He's know that the situation going through that is our loophole we left in Africa that someone come and key in. And I want to let Mr. Chabata know that like the way you are saying, you cannot fight these people. You don't even know the enemy. Who are you fighting? You say ISIS. Do you know them? Can you see someone, you say this one is ISIS? You don't even, how can you fight an invisible enemy? The only things you can do for us to fight coronavirus, we have to protect ourselves. Am I right or wrong?
So how did you know it was ISIS?
That you are the one saying it. Because you are saying that let's kick the enemy out. Who is the enemy? The enemy is you and me.
No, they've come out.
Because you did not empower your
ISIS
kids.
has come out and said we are the ones who are perpetrating some of. They've taken responsibilities and they're beheading people right now.
Anybody can come out to say we are the one because they just want to show you that the more you leave loophole in your community, the more they will cause you trouble. They want to teach you a lesson that you want to empower your community to make them strong, know their value.
So is Qatar a factor?
If you leave a community.
Is Qatar a factor? Is Qatar a factor in the conflict there in Mozambique? In your own
for me, I don't know. Maybe you've been in Qatar, you're discussing with them. But the only thing is for me, what I believe in Africa, there is no any nation can come and disturb me if I know what I want. That's it.
So we don't know what we want.
But the more I don't know what I want, the more I become the mercy of every country.
It's easier to be manipulated.
Those young boys, they are at the mercy of the Western countries. Yes. Because they want to survive. At the end of the day, those boys are not fighting because they need an independence or they need to survive. That's it.
All right.
We see it in Boko Haram has caused damage in our communities, not because they want something. They justify themselves that they are suffering and someone is helping them. And that's it. They don't have an agenda. Because there is no agenda in Boko Haram. There's no agenda in those youth and ISIS. They justify themselves. They are so tired with this government. They start fighting.
All right.
Miriam, I think Ambassador Maina is speaking like what I could call the language of level that said of Senegal, who believe that instead of Africans in Senegal advocating for their independence, they were to live under the mercy of France, because he believed that the African people can never manage themselves. They were very inferior before the French people, and what they wanted, together with their comrade, is for France to continue ruling over Senegal.
Thank you, my brother. If you are always complaining, you are inferior, someone will come and lead you.
All right.
That is 100%.
Okay, now we have to move on. We have to move on because we have to get to the end of the show right now, and a lot of things have come out. We've seen poverty being the key thing there, and also we've seen ideology, and we've seen perhaps it's about African countries took responsibility, especially the leadership. And Abigail even went ahead to suggest that perhaps we need to revisit our education system there. So a lot of things that we have discussed today. But moving forward, we'll start with our guest today, Professor Mutola Matthias from Mozambique. If you were to advise President Filipe Nyusi on how to deal with this situation and the way forward, what would you say? Ambassador Matthias Mutola from Mozambique.
Yes, first of all, I would challenge the president to analyze the vision. Ask himself, does he have a vision for the country? Why is he in power? Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Why am I in power? Am I just here to advance personal gains or ideas, or even my party ideas? Because the challenge we're having here is that every president comes in power, it has got both a personal agenda and a party agenda. These two go together. So I was going to challenge him to ask himself, delve into himself. Why am I in power? Am I just here just for personal gains, or to advance the agenda of my party? Or do I really have an agenda for the nation, for the country? That's the number one thing I'll do. Number two, I'm going to go back on the colleague talk about education. Challenge him to propose or establish an educational system that responds, number one, to local needs. We need an educational system that responds to local needs. Number two, an educational system that builds people. This is a key. And number three, I want to challenge him that in this process of re-educating ourselves here, we need to delve in the issue of identity. This is very important, because unless I know who I am, I can't love myself unconditionally, and as a consequence, I can't love my neighbor. That's why I can sit in my own office, mind my own business, while people are dying in Cabo Delgado. So I'll just challenge him to have these three in mind. Number four, try to, like Professor Okama was saying, establish development agendas that do involve the people in general, but then the young people in particular. They have to be involved in the process, because one thing I said earlier on is why we have discharged Cabo Delgado was because of unemployment, but then I spoke about the issue of greed. And one of our colleagues was saying that, to give an example of, I think, Libya, where the people were working, the young people were working, but still there was war. Yes, they were working, maybe they good salaries, but mind you, there was the issue of greed. Me want a thing just for me. And when I don't have identity, I won't enjoy following you. I want respect and accepting you as my leader. Mm-hmm. So if a Professor Kama comes and tells me, hey, why don't just get so out of power? You also can lead. We're going to give you support, give some money, all that. I'm going to rise up against my leader. Mm-hmm. And I believe that that's what happens in some countries, maybe like Libya. It seemed to be okay, and I'm sure now they might have even missed the former president, but then someone had to be corrupted. Someone had to have a heart full of greediness. Mm-hmm. And that's how I believe eventually Libya got into what it got. So I'll get the president to analyze his vision. Is my vision for the nation or just for me and my party? Mm-hmm. Number two, educational system that builds people and responds to local needs. Mm-hmm. Number three, make sure that in this system, we deal with the issue of self-identity, mm-hmm. where then we begin to love ourselves unconditionally and love one another as well unconditionally. At the end of the day, we will develop a heart for the people and for the nation. And last but not least, make sure that we use our resources I'll ask President and challenge him, please make sure that we make use of our resources, our local resources to build our country first. I heard several times President Trump saying, America first, America second, America third, America fourth, and so on and so forth. Suppose our president would do the very same thing. Suppose most African presidents would have the same mentality. What would become of Africa? Thank you.
All right, that's a good challenge there, President Philippe Nyusi, please. You might want to do some soul searching and see why exactly did you seek for the leadership of the country that is Mozambique? Was it for you to serve certain interest or to serve the people of Mozambique who have trusted you with that responsibility? Thank you so much, Professor Mutola Matias. And before I bring in Bongi Shamba to give her final comments, of course, we've been wondering what African Union has been doing. Where leaders in 2019, leaders from across Southern and Central Africa, as well as African Union, Commission Chairperson Musa Faki Mahamat traveled to Maputo, Mozambique in early August 2019 to act as guarantors for the peace agreement between the Mozambican government and former rebel group Renamo. The agreement, of course, paved the way for inclusive elections mid-October, which provided for a decentralized political system, one of Renamo's key demands since it returned to armed conflict over 5 years ago. Mahamat said in a statement that Mozambique could be assured of the AU's continued commitment to support the peace process as well as the government's efforts towards achieving sustainable socio-economic development in the country. That was very wonderful what Musa Faki did. However, so far, the AU has taken a backseat with negotiations largely being led by internal process, and that has been a mess. So that is the far African Union did, and since then they've not been talking much about the increased violence there in Mozambique. Bongi Shamba, your final comments. I don't know if she's there. Then we shall, as we wait for her, we shall go to Saxon.
Okay. The proxy war in Mozambique should be a concern for all Mozambique's neighbors and the region, because once this issue is not dealt with, it will spill into other nations, and the Southern Africa region will be a powder keg. The terrorism activity will increase because this is the region that has enjoyed the peace for quite a long time. So we need the region, the SADC should invoke Article 6.1 to help Mozambique to put the boots on the ground, fight the terrorists, and flush them out. Otherwise, the problem is going to visit each and every nation. Actually, Tanzania had the challenge 2 weeks ago. The same insurgents were starting destabilizing Tanzania. So it's people need to act before the problem escalates. Thank you.
All right, but when you say people, you mean other countries?
Other countries.
Or regional blocks
SADC.
like SADC?
The whole SADC was the mess of these terrorists.
All right, well, SADC has been very passive in that regard, so hopefully they'll be more quick to respond to some of these things. Let's go to Philip Jabata. Philip, your final comments.
I'm here, Miriam.
Oh, you're back. Go ahead, Bongi.
Yes,
okay, go ahead.
Yes.
Your final comments.
Right, my final comments. There's two things here. We are faced with a situation that requires immediate attention. And then in the long run, what we need to do is to make sure that we have a curriculum that will help us as the children of Africa to appreciate who we are, one, and secondly, a curriculum that is appropriate to our situation. We have children who are out of employment because nobody's creating that employment, but we have all our resources. Our system of education does not address us as an African nation or as African nations. But this issue that has brought us up here today, we need to put our hands together and resolve the situation. Our friends in Mozambique need us. The SADC, the AU, they need to act. How they are going to act, that is why the bodies are there. They're there to make sure that they sit down and come up with a solution to such things. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you so much. We go to Philip Chabata, your final comments. Okay, then I shall move to Abigail Mupambi from Zimbabwe.
Thank you so very much. What I can basically say, like my other colleagues, we have got an identity crisis. We need to begin to define ourselves, the African vision, that will actually make us know exactly what to do should such a situation face us. Like now, all we need now is to move from theory to action. Mm-hmm. And remember, I'm just worried about the Western-funded African Union, whether it will be able to fight the interests of its sponsor. So, do we still need this AU? If so, for what? Do we still need this SADC in its state? If so, for what? We can only need it, definitely, if it can actually be truthful and be able to take action when need be. Otherwise, it will be some club for spending allowances and probably just having some billionaires club, people enjoying the donors funds somewhere there. So I think I'm really skeptical of the issue that AU and SADC, they are being passive. Taking into cognizance that, remember, they are Western funded. Do we still need this setup? I think this platform must begin to be geared up to be also an action-oriented platform. Do we need to petition AU probably to act on some of these things as advocates and as regional and the continental activists? We need to begin to look back and say, take note. What is that which you want the AU that you want to do for us, the SADC that you want to do for us, because we'll be continuing with these talk shows as we lose lives. Remember, a lost life is never gained back. So I think we need to make use of these platforms and begin to make concrete resolutions and concrete agreements and say, are we going to continue to talk like this when people are dying? We have regional bodies, we have got SADC and AU. For me, I think they must begin to show us, other than meetings, what else can they do for us? What else can they offer for us at the moment? Thank you.
All right, very well, thank you so much. And that meeting that I mentioned there that happened, the 40th Heads of State Summit for SADC that happened in Maputo itself, Maputo there in Mozambique, where the final communique said the summit had received an assessment report on emerging security threats in the region and instructed the SADC Secretariat to prepare an action plan for its implementation that will, among others, prioritize measures to combat terrorism, violent attacks, and cybercrime, and to address adverse effects of climate change. Also, the meeting urged SADC member states to support the Mozambican government in the fight against terrorism in Cabo Delgado. That was in August, and since then, nothing much has been able to happen. So before I bring in Philip Chabata to give his final thoughts, I've been informed that we have another professor on our panel that perhaps did not have an opportunity to say something. So I would like to bring, before we conclude, Professor, is it Edmore or Edmore? I don't know. Professor, good afternoon. Professor, is it Edmore? Okay, so yes, Edmore, yes. Thank you so much. And I didn't know you were there, but I'm sure you've been listening. And what Abigail there is saying now, we should petition AU over certain matters that are of importance or in this continent that they seems to be lagging behind in how they're dealing and they're addressing some of these important issues in the continent. From everything you've been listening and that comment from Abigail, what is your opinion on that?
Thank you very much. Everything, I believe it draws down to our identity as an African people, as an African nation, as an African society or a community. the politics of exclusion, where we select our leaders during political contestation or during elections, is actually the breeding ground of all these issues. The winner takes all without even including or involving the competing forces or the opposing forces during the election process. I know within the opposition cycle, within the opposition component, there are people who are able to build towards the national agenda, towards the national vision. And these are the people who also help to dissuade and discourage this foreign interference, foreign influence of issues and ideas, where we have one common national vision, national agenda, which is inclusive for everyone. And it's high time we begin to build on a devolved system of governance, so that even the elderly person in the rural community, in the marginalized areas, we have a say in the national development discourse and process. That is all I say, and I'll thank everyone for participating and for contributing. Thank you very much.
And thank you so much for your thoughts. Next time we should have you early. Thank you so much for your thoughts there, Professor Edmore. All right, Mr. Philip Chabata, give us your final thoughts and way forward.
Hey, Abigail, I'm in mountains here in Bella.
Okay, you travel too much. I guess that's a good thing. But go ahead, your final thoughts.
So I'll be in and out. Yeah. Actions that have been put in there. And let me just say my shout outs to my sister Abigail. I think we think the same, Abigail. We need to sit down when I come into Zimbabwe and Saxon and see how we can actually begin to formulate. The major things that I take from what our discussion was, and my contributions will be, let's not ignore our neighbors or our brothers who are shouting for need. Even if they had said they were able, now they are not able. We can't say die because we once wanted to give you help and you did not accept it, so we should let you die because whom we will be fixing? We'll be fixing ourselves. 1, 2. We need to hold our leaders accountable. The problem that we are having in Africa is our leaders are not being held accountable. Let me not even say Africa. In the whole world, it's just like Trump. When you choose a person to put them into power, they begin to think they are all that is, and they are almighty, until the next time they are coming to look for a vote. We need to hold our leaders accountable. These guys were put into government saying that they were going to do 1, 2, 3, 4 things for the people. I heard the professor saying that they have no agenda. No, these guys come to us looking for votes with their manifestos. Their manifestos are their agendas, and their manifestos are the reasons that we vote for them, because they will lie to us that they are going to do 1, 2, 3 things. And when they get into office, they forget that they are servants, as they would be saying. They become masters, chefs, and kings and chiefs. They want to tell everyone whatever they think. They want everyone to do what they think. They never go back to the people. I think the last professor was a professor indeed, who said they must go back to the people. Our leaders must come back to the people. People like FAC have no reason to be still on that position, because they have they've done nothing for African Union. We can't be spending time and money for people to be dishing out money, giving their friends and all that. We need to stop all that nonsense. We are Africa. We need to say enough is enough. So in our countries, we need to stop certain behaviors. So even African SADC, what are they saying they are in leadership when we have situations in Mozambique deteriorating while they are watching? So where is the leadership? So we need to put an end to this praise and worship and being a kumbaya type of people. We can do it, but it's not only Africans, because I see that the Americans have done it. Trump has done whatever he wants to do. So let's hold our elected leaders accountable. 1, 2. If someone is not performing, they must be recalled or they must be removed. Thank you.
All right, but in Africa, what happens is if somebody is not performing, we will re-elect them again. We become very complacent. Ambassador Maina, I heard you laughing. I don't know what is funny. You could share with us.
No, what is the funniest thing that 97% of Africans don't even know how AU is operating. That's the funniest thing. Miriam, last time I've taken time to explain to you what is AU. Who is manipulating, who is the pilot of AU? Is not Musa Faki, you know that. If I'm telling you right now in November, you don't know. No, that's what I'm saying. You don't know.
We know it's him.
The issue, okay, that's good then if you know, but the issues of how AU cannot solve African problem is the main body of Africa. Ask yourself a question. It's not 1 year, 2 years. It's more than 30 years we are going now. Ask yourself a question, why AU cannot solve any African problem? For me, I always telling people, I don't belong to the government of blaming. I belong to the people who see the problem and find a solution.
All right.
This
so
is simple as if you
give
don't...
us a solution for probably the government of Mozambique at the way forward there. Today we're looking for solutions.
As Professor Mutula has always said,
yes.
Professor Mutula has said all that is, I want to resume. First of all, we need to African create our own identity first, know what we want, number one. Majority of our leaders, their agenda is personal only. They don't even have country agenda. If you have your personal agenda and party agenda, sometimes it's not helping the country. If you see the example of United States, the president of the US is not having his personal agenda. He have a country agenda. He wants to change a lot of things for the country. But our leaders are changing their personal life and the party life.
Trump does not have a personal agenda.
So I raise my case then.
Ambassador, Trump does not have a personal agenda. Even my...
Say again?
You're saying Trump has the country's agenda in his heart, not his personal agenda. I think Trump is just a bad example
at this point. No, you have to know something. President Trump is a businessman. He is not a politician. He did not grow in the system of liars.
So we will just excuse him.
I'm coming. Let me explain to you. Anybody who comes from the business.
All right, Ambassador.
Any person who comes from the business. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Go ahead. Complete your thought.
I was saying that we don't have to do the difference between a businessman who wants to run the country and a politician. Politicians don't have anything on his head, only lies. A businessman have a plan, have an agenda. He know how to negotiate for the well-being of his country and himself.
I agree.
I am just telling you, if you take it or you leave it, take it to the bank.
I agree with you, Ambassador.
Trump is an authentic person. He is not a club of liars. Trump don't know how to lie. If he don't like you, he don't like you forever. He's not a politician. You get that?
Okay.
Trump is a politician because they are expecting the vote. Even they hate you, they have to play the game.
Okay.
But a businessman, I don't have to play the game. If I don't do business with you, it's no.
All right.
Because business, either you win or you lose.
Where are you from, Ambassador? Ambassador, what country are you from?
I am from your country. I am a Pan-African.
All right. So what about... Yes.
Arguing. True though.
I'm about to give my final thoughts.
Before
reality, the issues is African we are having now. We want to believe on lies. That's why we are always driving wrong. Because always when we end up being lying, we spend our time to complain.
Another lie is that Trump is a business person. He doesn't lie.
Trump is a con
He's a
man,
businessman. A businessman don't lie because when you lie, you lose, my dear. A businessman don't lie. If he don't like you, he say no. Go and see. Trump said that the majority of politicians, they are just
maybe we have
lies.
categories of lies. I don't know because I'm missing the point. The guy lied about his taxes, his casinos, and all that. We have a whole history.
Let me explain to you the system of
but
this
I
world.
understand.
Let me remind you something.
Yes.
In this world, if you are a rich person, you pay less tax or you are not even pay tax at all. This is the world. You take it or you leave it. The 1% have to do whatever they want to in this world, and they are going to go free. Either you want to be among the 1% or you want to be among the 99%. That is up to
Ambassador,
you. These people don't pay tax.
Okay.
They don't. I don't have issue.
All
they
right.
don't pay tax. Rich people don't pay tax. My dear, tax for poor people is for poor people.
But on the
so
matters,
you have to put that on your manners of today.
Mm-hmm. So on the matters,
All right?
Mozambique,
Any question?
and way forward.
Now, the way forward, Professor Mutula has said,
yes,
as soon as we understand our own agenda, we come back as a country. We know exactly what is our way forward. We will start implementing one by one, by involving the younger generation. Because right now, the youth, they are the one on this continent, Africa. Because 75% of the population are youth. So we want to do our best to make sure that the young generation are involved in any politics we have to do, because they have something to say. They will feel satisfied. In this world, human beings want to be understood. Human beings want to be acknowledged. If we don't acknowledge the people, they will create trouble. The more you forget them, the more they feel that they are not important, the more they will cause you trouble in your life. Simple. Let us acknowledge this new generation, work with them, be partner with them, and we will see amazing things.
Very well.
Thank you so much.
And on that one, I agree with you. But on Trump, he lied. Mexico will pay for the wall. Mexico has not paid for the wall.
That is business, Miriam.
That is
there
stupid.
Is no any president
Take it to another level. I will not even. You know what? Thank you, Ambassador.
Let me explain to you something.
That is
for us, is a result. I want the result. There is no any American president has brought more money in the United States than Donald Trump, who has closed a lot of deals.
Okay, very well.
Take it or leave it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. Okay, my head is spinning right now. But let's go to, I don't know if Monet is back.
Yeah, I am back.
All right, very well. So sorry, you missed a chunk of the show, but you're giving a final thought. So please, and Trump does not lie, apparently.
Well, I mean, I'm not getting. I'll try to avoid getting entangled in that debate.
All right, let's just leave that alone then.
Yeah, for simple reason, it distracts us from our own agenda. All I know is there are no angels in politics. that's basically what it is. Angels in politics, they don't exist. So even in business, angels don't exist as well. So, but there's something that is, for me, that is important that Ambassador said earlier on, which is the involvement of our young people in our politics. Now, I often try to balance this in the sense that it's not about the young people taking over. It is about working together with young people and those experienced and mature in politics. The problem that we have in Africa, much as we may not want to accept it, but it goes back to something that Comrade Sean said earlier on. By and large, as African countries, we got political independence. Our biggest challenge is we have never learned the rules of the game in terms of how the world is run. Now, if you look at China, when it decided that it wanted to build its economy, because China was bad in the 70s, even in the 60s. And it's one example that, of course, we, for Western propaganda, we often tend to take China seriously. Of course, China has also made its own mistakes when it decides to relate with us in Africa. But they decided to look at themselves and what they wanted outside the world, and then decided to understand the rules of the world. So whether it was how the United Nations was being run, whether it's how the World Trade Organization is run, whether it's any international institution is run, China sought to understand the rules and played its role in terms of how it can use those rules to its advantage. And one of the reasons why it has become an enemy of America is it has beaten America on its own game and its own rules. Now, for Africa, we still haven't learned this, despite having thousands, if not millions, of professors and Western educated people. The problem with most of us when we come here to be educated in the Western world, we then want to transfer how the Western world is run to Africa. Whereas Chinese students that come here and have been my contemporaries for a long while, they will come, learn and understand the rules, go back to their home countries and proffer homegrown solutions of how they can beat the West on its own game. Our biggest challenge is Africa, I've said this before. Of all the wealth, and here I agree in part with Ambassador, of all the wealth we talk about, we still can't independently run our own Africa Union, our SADC, our ECOWAS. They are all donor dependent on Western countries. No wonder why the Western countries still believe that they are in charge and they are in control, because they set up these institutions for us and they pay for them. The diplomats that we have in the African Union, in SADC, are all getting paid by Western donor countries. No wonder the solutions that they proffer, or sometimes lack of solutions, they are waiting for a signal from the one who is paying them. So until as Africa we decide to say $1 here, £1 here, a shilling here, a kwacha here, we're going to do our own thing. And we are going to stand united as Africa, as the African Union. We will set the rules of how we trade with the outside world. Our youth will always be available to be exploited by whoever can buy them a fake Scottish whiskey, and they drink and they destroy everything that we have. And this is what we are seeing with these terrorist insurgents. Truthfully speaking, like Ambassador said earlier on, it's rare for me to agree with ambassadors because, for various reasons. But for as long as in our countries, for as long as there is huge youth unemployment, we will always be exploited. For as long as the youth don't feel like benefiting from the resources that we have within our countries, they don't value those resources. What they will value is cash, immediate cash in their pockets, which will lead them to go out and be merry with their girlfriends and boyfriends and the rest of it. So these are things that we have to look at. However, coming back to the subject topic, which is should Zimbabwe be involved? Like I said earlier on, if you had asked me in 2017 or in May, April, or around that time of this year, I would probably have said straight away. But having looked at it and considered who the actors are in this situation and what the interests of those actors are, I now tend to pause and realize that we can sacrifice our military, our children, our sons and daughters in that war, which we can easily get stuck in, like the Russians did in Afghanistan, or like they are doing now in Syria, where you just get stuck in an endless war, which you potentially can't win because you realize you are fighting a different cause. There is an internal issue here, which Professor Mtola said earlier on. There is an internal issue in Mozambique where these guys in the northern side are feeling that they're not benefiting from the wealth of the nation. It is just in 2010, 2012, when Mozambique was regarded as a good example of donor agencies and how they can bring development to Mozambique. Yeah, because there was some form of stability, there was some form of wealth happening there. But all that was happening down in Maputo, in Beira, but never up north. So there is a serious grievance internally. But we must also recognize that these insurgents didn't start in Mozambique. They started with their cleric who was from Kenya and moved on to Tanzania. And they couldn't sustain being in Tanzania. They moved into Mozambique and exploited the situation in Mozambique. Now, There is one question, having looked at all this, that I will pause and I'll stop there so that other panelists can get involved. It is, if ExxonMobil is prepared to invest US 30 billion in this region and supported by French companies and British companies, whom Simon Mann only yesterday has said Britain should send at least 3,000 soldiers and do a mop-up there, only yesterday. And of course, Simon Mann is a specialist in this, having been a SAS and a mercenary. My question now for us is, are we not seeing that ExxonMobil and all these other actors involved are actually displacing people for their interest, for their investment? Because the Mozambican government, to remove, according to the United Nations Human Rights Chief Michelle Bachelet, to remove 355,000 people who have been displaced so far, and it would require more, to remove those and relocate them elsewhere would be very, very costly if it was done in a formal way. But you can displace them by creating a war, an insurgent, which is what I think is happening.
All right, very well. Munay, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay, very well. We go to Daniel Wesonga, your last comments there and everything else, and also those issues that Mr. Munay has raised there.
Yes, Miriam, I think from my side, I'll just reiterate whatever has been said by Comrade Philip Chabata there, that the situation at hand right now is that the people of Mozambique are besieged by this terrorist organization, which is at the center of the current mayhem that we're witnessing in Mozambique. And therefore, as the African people, as responsible neighbors, whatever we need to do right now is to help them get rid themselves of the problem at hand. And after that is where now we can be able to address the internal problems that they have there in terms of leadership and everything. But just moving with speed to castigate without offering any tangible solutions to them, then we will have failed as an African people, as the neighbors of Mozambique, and also as the African Union. And remember, Miriam, if this problem is not contained in Mozambique, then it will serve as a litmus test for those terrorist organizations and those other people, the underhands, which are involved in this mess, to try it out to other African countries, and it will even spill to Zimbabwe and other neighboring countries. So it is upon ourselves to take up this initiative to ensure that we support the people of Mozambique, to bring peace and tranquility, and be able to focus on the peace agenda across the continent. That is my parting shot, Miriam.
Thank you so much, Professor Jared Onyari. End it for us.
Yeah, thank you. So I had a small hiccup with my internet, Miriam. I started with this and I want to conclude with this. And some of my fellow panelists, maybe perhaps they did not get me what I was saying. I was saying there is a proxy war in Africa. And there is a proxy war in Mozambique. There is no doubt there is modern scramble for the continent of Africa. People are after Africa resources. And particularly in Mozambique, Americans have got interest there. The British have got interest there. The France have got interest there. Qatar has got interest there. For what? For oil and gas. So, my fellow panelists who are here, Africa has got work to be done. And we are not going to run away from it. Mozambique now, they are on their belly. And I want to agree with Munay and Minor, whom I least agree with most of the time, but today he spoke things which were appealing to me. Munay is saying that the people, more than 350 people to be displaced. And the payment will be very expensive in terms of compensation. What do? You cause anarchy. How do you cause anarchy? Find the youths who are unemployed, who are facing poverty, who have been marginalized, give them few handouts. They will cause havoc. And I gave the genesis, Miriam, how this insurgent found themselves in Mozambique. And I want to agree with Mune, he captured it. Once in Kenya, we killed the Sheikh Rogo. They moved to Tanzania. They will not be there. They went to Mozambique. And I said the government of Mozambique, and this is why I want my comrades to hear. They got this intelligence. What did they do with the intelligence? The intelligence is not sleeping. So, Miriam, what I'm trying to say is that Mozambique now is on its belly. Something must be done. And Ambassador Maina demonstrates, and sometimes we act emotionally. He's saying you don't pay African Union. Do you pay? You don't pay SADC. Do you pay? Do you pay East African Union? Do you pay? Do you pay ECOWAS? No. Do you pay Maghreb? You don't. So whoever pays those people keeps their agenda. So you expect something to come from African Union? So a serious conversation which we are giving to the people of Mozambique and the government of Mozambique. The proxy war now is on your doors. It's on your footsteps. Try to engage these young people. Bring them to the table, deliberate and say, who is this giving your children some things and they are repairing against you? We cannot be able to discuss about young people if we don't create opportunities for them. We will be wasting a lot of time here. We must know, why do these people, the young people from the north, feel they are marginalized? Ask yourself, their land which was taken, were they compensated? So Miriam, Africa's got work to do, and we need to talk to each other. We need to listen to each other. We must be able to create opportunities for the young people, or forever we lose it. Today it is happening in Mozambique. The same strategy will be used in any African countries. Remember, people who colonized us, people used in slaves with us, people who are hiring for our resources, they will not mean anything good for us. So I agree, and I want to conclude. There is a proxy war going on in Africa simply because people are eyeing our resources. When you hear more than 1,500 people have been killed, more than 200 people have been displaced, it is going to affect the region. I submit, Miriam.
All right, thank you so much, Professor. And even as we speak, residents of the affected areas there in Mozambique, they say the government has offered very little help, while journalists and researchers have been arrested for working in the region, which raises a lot of red flags, creating an information vacuum that has allowed conspiracy theories to fester. All right, thank you so much. I want to thank Bongi Shamba from the UK. I want to thank Professor Mutola Matias, who joined us from Mozambique. I want to thank Saxon Zvima from Zimbabwe, Professor Onyari, of course, from Kenya, Philip Chabata, who is joining us from South Africa, Wesonga from Kenya, and of course Munebia, who joined us from the UK as well, Abigail Mupambi from Zimbabwe, and of course Ambassador Maina Ghana, who today Professor Onyari is very happy with you. You seem to be agreeing on a lot of things.
We spoke my language. We have involved young people, Miriam.
And also Professor Edmore Durham, and who said that the problem is in our governance, the winner takes all, a system that has created all of these things that we're seeing today. Thank you so much for your time, all of you, and thank you so much, our viewers. My name is Miriam Mugutu. It was a pleasure. Let's meet here sometimes next week for the same show. Bye-bye for now.
Peace must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.